Hello students, welcome you all to a new session regarding discussion of a new chapter in the energy environment subject known as ecosystem. So in our today's session we will be learning what is the structure and function of an ecosystem, then some of the energy cycles, what are the cycles responsible for the working of an ecosystem, and much more things. So in the respect to today's particular session students, if you have any doubts on the screen, I have highlighted here my email IDs through which you can send me the message or a mail. Similarly, even the WhatsApp number is also available. You can communicate and get clarified regarding your doubts. As I said students, ecosystem. What is this ecosystem? Ecosystem is nothing but it is a place where we all together, it is the plants, animals, birds, trees, microorganisms, they are all living together in this particular earth. So again this ecosystem, it is divided into two categories. It is consisting of biotic creatures. These biotic creatures are nothing but, as I said, it is consisting of what? That is nothing but the plants, then the animals, and different kinds of living creatures. It includes even the microorganisms, insects, birds, other things. Similarly, the second category of in the ecosystem, again it is also classified under the second classification. We call it as what students? We call it as abiotic components. So abiotic components is nothing but these biotic creatures, they are developed or evolved in a particular region which is consisting of all, you can say, the hills, water, sand, rock. So which are all parts of nature. They are all what? Abiotic, which means they don't have any life. Now the very important thing which I am going to tell you is these biotic and abiotic, which they are there, they are consisting of the basic elements. Which are the basic elements? You can see here the inorganic aspects in the form of carbon, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, water. Apart from that, they are also consisting of some organic compounds, that is nothing but protein, carbohydrates, lipids, which act as a link between the abiotic and biotic aspects. Now the third important structure for any ecosystem students is nothing but the climatic conditions. And for this, the best example just I would like to highlight is the desert region. So if you take the desert region, you know that the best animal which you can which resides in the desert is nothing but it is the camel itself, where you know that it is best suitable, or you can say it is a sheep of a desert for its transportation. Whereas once it drinks the water, it can remain without water for 2 to 3 months, which means its body is developed in such a fashion that it can adapt to the desert conditions. Similarly, the plant, the best is nothing but you have heard also the cactus. So it also requires less amount of water. So why I said students is the biotic and abiotic components, they are always depend upon some climatic conditions. What are climatic conditions? As I said, temperature, moisture, the sunlight, topography, that is the geographical conditions of a particular region. The example which I have given is of a desert. Similarly, it may be of an evergreen forest, it may be of a ice country, snowfall country. So depending upon the climate regions, we have different kinds of creatures which are available in the particular zone. Now you know that for any microorganism or any living creature to survive, it needs food. So basically students, the food at the first step which is developed, it is developed by the plants. So therefore we call them by a name known as producers. This is the first step where the food is prepared by absorbing the energy from the sun using a famous process which you have studied in your school days, which is nothing but the photosynthesis process. So here this is the first step, the food is developed, and from here it is eaten by different herbivorous animals, and again the carnivorous animals decompose, it continues. So if the food is eaten by the animals, we call them as phagotropes in the form of some macro consumers. They are nothing but they are the large animals. Similarly, even there are some micro consumers which are available in the form of some fungi. They may be in the form of some algae, bacteria, virus also, which are in the minute in size. So therefore, we call them as in a category known as micro consumers or saprotropes. Now, what are the functions of an ecosystem, students? Please be very careful here. So the functional aspects, students, very important thing is any ecosystem which is there, it is consisting of these five basic functionalities. The number one comes the energy cycles, second comes the food chains, third comes the diversity link, fourth is the nutrient cycle, fifth is the evolution. The first point, energy cycle. In a school days, I also you have learned that energy can neither be created nor destroyed but transferred from one form to another form. So here also, students, the energy from one cycle to another cycle, it goes on transferring, because of which the sustainability and the ecosystem is well balanced. And to develop this energy, we need the food, and even this food has to be transferred from one organism to another organism to different processes, which is nothing but known as a food chain. There is a diversity for different kinds of organisms, because of which a diversity interlinkage has to be established. Then only the energy cycle and food chain will be successful. If these three are together successful, it leads to the what, the nutrient cycle recovery and the recovery of what, biogeochemical cycles, and there are also some evolutions which is nothing but playing a very important role in the adaptation of a particular creature to a development of a new ecosystem with respect to the environmental conditions. Now, just if you observe a picture we have highlighted here, where you can see that here the sun which is there, it is giving its sun rays towards the plant. Therefore, photosynthesis process, it produces the food. It is eaten by a primary consumer. We call it as a herbivorous animal. This herbivorous animal is eaten by a secondary consumer. We call it as carnivorous animal. Again, in turn, students, this is eaten by another tertiary consumer, which you can see here. And once the tertiary consumer dies, then their dead is fed, or decomposition is carried out, some decompose in the form of some algae or in the form of some fungi or bacteria, and this is done by the decomposers, where the dead material is decayed completely and again it is restored back to the soil in the form of nutrients, where again the cycle continues. So the same picture which I have explained in some points, you can see here, students, where I have said ultimately the first who develop the food, we call them as the producers, which is done by the plants. Further, you can say that they are nothing but the basic blocks of developing the food. Then this food is eaten by the animals. It is the plants which pure, the animals which feed purely in the plants. We call them as herbivorous animals, or they are the first known as the primary consumers, which directly feed on the plants, that is the producers. Then the animals which feed directly on the herbivorous animals, we call them as carnivorous animals or secondary consumers, where they eat only the herbivorous animals, which means now the food from the plants through the primary consumers, it is transferred to the secondary consumers. Once the secondary consumers die, students, they are decomposed with the help of decomposers in the form of some bacteria and fungi, some insects, where they break down the organic material and again it is restored back to the soil, that is the mud, in the form of some nutrients. The plant prepares the food, again the cycle, the chain continues. So this is how a linkage and a diversity is established between the producers, consumers and decomposers. Sometimes there may be one consumer, and two consumer, three consumer. It depends upon the type of a food chain. Then the next important thing is regarding how the energy flow happens in system. So the energy flow in the system is mainly controlled by 5 different cycles. The first cycle is the water cycle. Second is the carbon cycle. Third is the oxygen cycle. Fourth is the nitrogen cycle. Fifth is the energy cycle. Basically, students, these 5 cycles, they are need to be working very correctly, and because of their correct working itself, the ecosystem is well balanced. But we, the human beings, from many years, we are creating the disturbances to the cycles, which means we are impacting them, and because of that, we are facing the consequences of a different type of environmental hazards, you can say, or disasters, which have in the form of some cyclone effect, earthquake, volcanoes, and many more others. Now, just I will show you a picture regarding a carbon cycle, how it works in an ecosystem. So you can see here, from the sun, the energy is passed towards the plants, which is entering in the form of the energy. The plants prepare the food by the photosynthesis process, which they absorb the oxygen and release. Sorry, they absorb the carbon dioxide and release oxygen. So sometimes the carbon is also released by the fossil fuels. This carbon again is taken by the plants itself, then by the human beings, the carbon dioxide is taken by the plant to the plants itself. Similarly, if there is some accidental hazards or forest fire, again the carbon dioxide is absorbed by the plant itself, which means more number of plants. You can say that there is a balancing of the carbon and the oxygen cycle together. Now, we'll be learning regarding the first cycle, that is known as the water cycle, or it is also known as hydrologic cycle. So if you observe carefully in this picture, students, you can see that there is a water body here. From this water body, through the evaporation process, the water droplets are evaporated. They form the clouds. Then these clouds, they move towards the region where there are mountains or hills, where they condense, and by the condensation and precipitation, the rainfall occurs. This rain, it falls on the mountains, hills, then in the form of river, it passes through some valleys, enters some water bodies such as pond, lake. Some amount of water, it directly falls on the land, where it passes through the roots of the trees, which is absorbed. Similarly, there is some amount of water flowing into the earth in the form of some infiltration process, passing towards the subsurface flow, and again they are entering the water body itself. At the same time, when the water is being absorbed by the plants through the transpiration process, some amount of again water is evaporated, which again enters the atmosphere and it gets evaporated to form the clouds. So again the clouds formed here, once again they move towards the hills. Here the condensation happens, precipitation, the rainfall occurs, and again cycle continues. So indirectly, students, if we have good number of forests, so automatically there will be increase in water bodies. Increase in water bodies, automatically good evaporation, good rainfall. The plants are more in number, reduce soil erosion, floods. Automatically, this cycle is restored. So you can see here in a small video, just I have shown an animation video where it can be seen clearly regarding how the water cycle is constituted. So you can see here, as I have said, there is the clouds, which they, once they are in, the water passes through the trees, through the forest, through the land, enters some water bodies. Similar to the mountains, rivers, it enters here. Some amount of water is directly evaporated again to form the clouds. At the same time, some amount of water through the transpiration process from the trees, it is again evaporated and formation of cloud happens, where again the condense and the rainfall occurs, and again the cycle continues. So this is it, students, with respect to the hydrology cycle. The remaining cycles we will be discussing in the next session. Thank you, students.